Richmond Hill is one of the city's unintended secret spaces. We are an ecumenical fellowship and spiritual retreat center inside of a historic monastery, nestled inside the Church Hill neighborhood. Every now and then, somebody may walk inside our gates to see what we're all about. But let's rewind. There was a time when the best way to enter Richmond Hill was through the chapel doors at 7 a.m., noon, or 6 p.m. The chapel and prayer is central to the life of Richmond Hill. Although it has been mostly empty due to restrictions, there was a time when we held worship services in the chapel during the week and any number of community events. But then COVID-19 happened.
Since COVID, everything has changed here, at least in terms of our hospitality, because people haven't been able to come. It hasn't been safe to have people in the house. But the one thing that's been constant is that we continue to go to the chapel to pray. And we had this rhythm of life, and I heard from people on the outside how disruptive the whole COVID distancing had become for them, that every routine was interrupted. But here within the walls of Richmond Hill, we knew what we had to do. We had to get up and go to prayers, and we had to return again to the chapel.
Prayers for the city remained a constant at Richmond Hill, and so did our mission of hospitality and spiritual development, which transitioned to being online. Outside of our walls, we found new ways to engage with the community. We knew our work around racial reconciliation was more important now than ever before. Inside our walls, we also had to make adjustments. Mandatory mask and social distancing became the new norm, and work on everything from finances to much needed improvements to our facilities was enacted this past year. With all these factors, you might ask, how do I know if Richmond Hill is the right fit for me or not? Perhaps it is best to start with getting to know the people who live here.
The residential community is the heart of Richmond Hill. There are lots of people involved in the ministry here. There are employees and staff and volunteers and council members and people who come to the programs. But this community, or this organization known as Richmond Hill, has made a commitment to support and enable a few people to live together under these roofs.
Wow. I have been here a long time. I think I'm going in my actual 11th year of living here. But I knew about Richmond Hill and was hanging around for many years before that. Got involved in the Healing Prayer Ministry, the Rua School of Spiritual Guidance. I fell in love with the place, and it is prayer that brought me here. And the healing of the brokenness, I think, is what's kept me here. So, yeah.
I moved into Richmond Hill as a resident in June of 2012. So I guess this coming June, it'll mark 9 years in community. And it honestly, it feels like I've lived here about 2 or 3 years, which to me is a positive indicator that this is a good place, a good fit. The work keeps me here. The rhythm of life definitely keeps me going, keeps me grounded.
I've been a resident at Richmond Hill for 4 years now. I'm in a situation where I married in. My husband has been working here and living here since 2012. So I'm a resident without an official position here. And when I first was married and joined to the community, I was working outside, and that is fine and allowed. And I've since retired and find that there's a lot to do to keep me busy at Richmond Hill. We have cleaning responsibilities. There's no cleaning crew here. We're it. We sign up for dishes, and we sign up sometimes to do meals, depending on what's going on. Of course, we have chapel 3 times a day, and I'm expected to go to chapel 7 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. And when I retired, people said, oh, well, if you retire, you need structure. Well, there's plenty of structure here at Richmond Hill, and it's good structure.
So when we talk about rhythm of life, which is, you know, how do you find the balance between work, prayer, rest, play? This is the first place I'd ever heard those things spoken of together or put together. I was very familiar with work. Left to my own devices, I pretty much worked until I would drop from exhaustion. So that's not really a sustainable nor an effective rhythm of life. There needs to be more to it. I think that what we add here at Richmond Hill is the space. And what creates the space is the prayer. Eventually you learn that pattern of, you know, putting down whatever it is that you're doing and going to chapel. And that creates space. And once you get a taste of that space, you begin to realize there's just more to life than work.
One of my favorite stories, when a former resident, Del Sledge, came to visit, she walked in the door and she went, oh, look at all the cobwebs everywhere. That means you guys are paying attention to the good work this place is supposed to be attending to. And I've always carried that with me, because when I first came, I was like noticing cobwebs. But then when I realized, oh, yeah, we can clean out the cobwebs, but the mission of Richmond Hill isn't about cleaning out cobwebs. It's something much more spectacular. What do you think? Wait, let me see which one she opened up. Look at that. Look, Anthony, isn't that exciting? It's probably a tiny carrot.
That's awesome.
It's our first carrot. It's like, you know, the firstborn of the season. I have never grown a garden for food before living at Richmond Hill. And I've learned so much from this amazing team of volunteers who have committed their skills and resources to helping us grow food, with the hope that this food will not only nourish the residential community, but that we will increasingly know and learn how to grow it to be a part of our retreat meals. So there's a lot of spirit out here. I think that this is a sign that Richmond Hill is growing. And now in this new era, Richmond Hill is helping to utilize the compost from the food waste in Richmond Hill to build better soils. And it feels very regenerative. And you know, at the end of the day, regeneration, I think, is what Richmond Hill's core mission is anyways, in respect to healing and prayer. So.
Hi, Tim. I'm back. Excited to see what you found. Welcome, everybody.
One of our newer members, resident historian Pam Smith, has recently brought her expertise in Kingian theory and passion for justice and genealogy into the community.
Kind of a neat find. These are unexpected, and they're not really what we're looking for, but we have some pre-colonial Native American artifacts.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. So it's an arrowhead?
Well,
her work in Richmond Hill has uncovered a past that was once lost to us.
And so this is the house that was determined by Joby Hill to be a house for people who were formerly enslaved on this land. There were dozens, probably 200 people owned by the owners of this land. Not all of them lived right here the entire time. But this, it has undergone several configurations. The sisters used it as partly a trash heap. After that, it was used as a tool shed. And so now we're thinking of how can we bring back the humanity in this area of Richmond Hill once we decide what happens to it, which will be a community effort to decide that. Once that's decided, then we'll of course put the names that we know of the people who were here. And another idea that we had is to take this small front area and maybe, if it's possible, we're still exploring it, we're not sure, but turning this into a very small heritage garden, just where people can have a little memorial of what are some of the things that enslaved people might have grown and eaten for themselves. So we're looking both inside and outside of the wall, but how can we remember the people who lived here and think about what their lives might have been like and honor the labor that they contributed to this place?
So I do not live at Richmond Hill, but this place is a spiritual home for me and has been a place that has really held me during a pretty transformative time of my life. I first came here in 2017 as an intern, and then during that summer I really was discerning a pretty big life move, both in my call to ministry and to move to Richmond. And this place and this community just held that whole discernment process. And then I just keep finding my way back to this place and have found it to be a place that pushes me, that challenges me, but that also holds me as I do some really deep, good, important, hard work.
Welcome to the Tuesday night worship service at Richmond Hill. We're here in the Veggie Garden, and we're so glad that you're worshiping with us. I'm Lindsay Franklin, our Associate Pastor for Development, and Joel is taking a much needed vacation. So Anthony and I are here welcoming you. Now, Anthony is going to preach tonight, so we're excited to hear his word.
I'll do it again.
Okay.
Sorry. That was a good take. I'll figure it out.
No.
Well, the thing was beeping, and I was like,
Well, I had a bug too.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes here at Richmond Hill. I came into community a year or so after Lindsay Franklin in 2019. In many ways, the past 2 years have been a whirlwind. Initially, I worked as an intern with high school students in the Armstrong Leadership Program. And like every other resident, I had my fair share of household duties. Then I transitioned to marketing and ministerial work like online preaching. Life is not all work here, though. Richmond Hill is a pretty eclectic place. It's hard to narrow it to just one thing. I've done everything from helping build a shed in the garden, to learning about beekeeping, to lending my voice to the many voices calling for social justice in Richmond. Perhaps what I cherish most has been the friendships. That and watching sunsets in Libby Park. Living in community is not easy. Tell the truth, after 2020, life has not been easy. But it's nice to remember that after every dark night comes the sunshine. With the retirement of Reverend Janie Walker in 2019, Richmond Hill was in need of a new co-pastor. And this year we welcomed Reverend Dr. Lisa Johnson as the new co-pastoral director here at Richmond Hill. Her work around pastoral counseling and ministry has been a welcomed addition to the community.
What I do like about the residential aspect of Richmond Hill is the consistency and the availability for prayer, intentional prayer, and the community is on a track that is allowing everybody to get to know one another at a deeper level, where you start to feel like family, and it's a good feeling to know that you're in the journey with a group of people as opposed to having to figure it all out by yourself.
I think one of the benefits of living in community is that you can't help but be shaped by the experience of living with other people. And in our case, having made a commitment to praying the hours together and sort of setting your whole life around the schedule of morning, noon, and evening prayer, and going into prayer and then coming out of prayer and going to work interacting with folks and living with people who become your family and challenge you in various ways and also help you to think differently and learn new things. It's an experience of transformation like none other I've had in my life, and it's been a remarkable experience.
So that's our story. Really, it's just a small part of our story of what takes place here at Richmond Hill, a place committed to seeking God's healing of metropolitan Richmond through prayer, hospitality, racial reconciliation, and spiritual development. What will be your contribution to this story?
Come without expectation and try to come in and be open and just experience the culture and without judgment, because it takes some time for the culture of living in an intentional community to make sense, if it ever does make sense. I know that when I came, I'm tend to be a fixer, and so I'd see this, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fix that or fix this. And what I recognize is that there were a lot of things that I thought needed fixing that didn't need fixed, and there were other things that I learned about that were where I think God really wanted me to be attentive to.
Those of us who live here, we like people, and we like working with each other here. So I'm really excited for people to come. And what advice? I don't know, I'm still relatively new, but drawing on my own personal experience is, and I had some experience with this from living in Africa. I kind of had to suspend any preconceived notions or expectations and kind of go with the flow. So I think just remaining open to the unfolding of the experience and trusting that if God brought you here, that the experience is going to be revelatory for you.
Be prepared to live with people that did not have the same mother. Know that you will not agree on a lot of things, but the mission and the call is so important that you learn how to adapt. And in truth, it's not for everybody, but it's worth it if you can endure. And you're really responding to God's call.
It's been a tenuous place for us, but the good part is we're willing to have the hard conversations that you don't have in many places. We're making room to have intentional conversations, to bring healing and racial reconciliation, not just to Richmond Hill while we have work to do here, but we are having intentional conversations that are going to be impactful in the region, and then I believe it will spread nationwide. We're looking at several authors and just willing to talk about the tough stuff.
Racial reconciliation is a key pillar to our work, and continues to be central to who we are and to what we're called to be and do. And so the community itself tries to model that by being racially inclusive in terms of our makeup, and we're living it constantly. But we've also had to do some very intentional work together which means we've had to stop, and in our formation time, which happens every other week for a couple of hours, we have taken time to sit down with one another and learn from each other about the impact of race on our lives. And from there, it really grows outward. We've made a significant effort over the years at Richmond Hill to help other people have the important conversations that need to be had around race, but also to think about, how does my life impact other people, and how does my life change the systems that are a part of white supremacy and a culture that continues to favor certain people over others. There's a lot of work to do, and we recognize that daily, but we also support each other in doing it, and doing it as best we can, and continuing to learn what it means to do it well.
Racial reconciliation in this community. It's an interesting question, Anthony, because sometimes I struggle with the notion of reconciliation, because I think too often what I see in society is people wanting to jump over doing the work to reconciliation, because reconciliation is a feel-good thing. You know, we're all together and we're all harmonious. But I don't think that that can happen really in any true form until the work of making society more equal happen, eliminating the disparities, having people understand the history that brought us to this point. So for me, I think that Richmond Hill is taking some significant steps toward racial reconciliation. So I think reconciliation is a process. It's not a moment. I'm not even sure it's a destination. I mean, in a way, if you think of it as Dr. King thought of the beloved community, you know, kind of that utopian vision of all of us being together in peace.